Welcome to Reddit After Hours. This is r/TrueOffMyChest, where OP's POS dad admits to getting his wife pregnant while he was away on a business trip. Our first Reddit post comes from Throwaway Daddy POS, titled, "My POS dad slept with my wife and got her pregnant a long time ago." So, I had a crap show of a birthday with a few close friends at my house. At the end of the party, after everyone left, my dad told me that he needed to confess something that was just killing him inside. I said sure. He first started off by saying that he did a lot of wrong to me and to my wife. He hoped that I could forgive him. I was so confused as to what he was talking about. I asked him what he did that he needed my forgiveness, and he said that when I was away on a business trip, he invited my wife over, and my wife and my dad got together one day, and they ended up doing the deed that led to my wife carrying his baby. I just responded with, "What the F? Is this a joke?" He told me that he was being serious and he was not lying to me. I still couldn't believe what I was hearing. He kept going on and on, saying that the baby didn't survive and I couldn't bear to hear it, so I just said, Stop the BS. I told him to leave my house. I physically pushed him out of my house and I went directly to my bedroom. My wife wasn't at my B-Day party at all, as she was out with her girls that night. We were planning to go out for dinner later that night, but that's definitely not going to happen now. My wife doesn't know that my dad confessed to me about their affair. I honestly don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know how I'm going to look at my wife and ask her if this is true or not. After some time, I went downstairs to check the front door, and my dad was still waiting in his car. He was just staring at his steering wheel, crying. I really wanted him to go away, and I wanted to go say something to him, but I couldn't because I didn't trust myself enough not to do something incredibly cruel. My wife still hasn't come home yet as I'm writing this. OP, that has got to be in the top 5 worst things a parent could ever do to their child. Having an affair with their spouse is just like a completely other level of betrayal. I don't see any other recourse in the situation besides divorce. I'm sorry you have to go through that, OP. I can't even imagine. Our next Reddit post comes from Fearless Mind 8276, titled, "My boyfriend prefers adult videos over passionate hugging with me, and he told me in the cruelest way." So a couple of nights ago, I had passionate hugging with my boyfriend, and the next day, he told me that he didn't feel satisfied because he, quote, finishes better with adult videos. He wasn't even trying to have a conversation about this or even try to figure things out. He just said this statement like it was nothing. If he wanted to jerk off, fine, but he went a step further and basically told me why I don't measure up and why he didn't want to finish in me. And he also told me why he wanted to finish on his own. I never asked for details, but he definitely made sure that I knew why, and that's why he was going to jerk off by himself. I was honestly stunned and hurt, and I told him that some things just don't need to be said because they can be really hurtful to your partner. And his response was, "Boo freaking who, get over yourself." Then he called me childish. I wasn't trying to start a fight, but I just wanted to tell him that what he said hurt me. But instead of listening, he dismissed me completely. Now I feel like I should have just kept my mouth shut. I thought he was supposed to be my safe space, someone that I could be vulnerable with, but all I got was more hurt talking to him. I feel like now I have no one to talk to, and my thoughts are consuming me. I thought I could turn to my boyfriend, but that backfired. So here I am, writing this because I don't have anyone else to vent to, and it's really killing me inside. Am I overreacting? Am I being too sensitive? Because I can't shake how his words hurt me so much. OP, you are absolutely not overreacting. That is an incredibly hurtful thing to say to someone, and something you should never say to your partner. Like, it's definitely okay, and I really think it's encouraged to have talks with your partner about, what you guys like when you're doing passionate hugging, and, that way you can satisfy each other, and make each other feel good, right? Like, those are good conversations to have. But saying that you don't amount to adult videos is just hurtful. It almost feels like he's trying to sabotage this relationship on purpose. And the bigger red flag is how he completely dismissed your feelings when you tried to have a real conversation with him about something that hurt you. That's probably the biggest red flag of all, OP. Our next Reddit post comes from Suitable Mission 7422, titled, "My husband left our 5-year-old and 9-month-old home alone and refuses to explain why." For context, my husband is 43 and I'm 31. We've been married for 7 years and have a 5-year-old and a 9-month-old together. My husband left our children home alone and refuses to admit it to me or even tell me where he was. I'm furious, enraged, and my husband keeps telling me that I'm making a big deal out of nothing. This just happened this weekend, and I'm on the board of directors for a local nonprofit organization. I had to attend an event for that organization this past Saturday, and I was gone for most of the day. My husband was supposed to be home with our kids. I texted him a few times, and he responded, but when I called him around midday, he didn't respond, which is very unusual for him. Shortly after, I got a call from my mom. She said that my son had just called her, and when she asked him what he and his sister were doing, he said that they were both watching TV. When she asked where their dad was, he said that their dad wasn't even there. My mom asked him several other questions, and from my son's responses, she really believed that he was telling the truth and that my husband really wasn't there. In fact, there was no adult there at all. She said that he didn't seem scared to be alone and he wasn't worried about where his dad was at. He just called her to chat, actually. He has a tablet designed for children with pre-programmed contacts that he can call on. It's only a few people that he can call, mostly just family members. I left immediately and began texting and calling my husband repeatedly. He didn't respond to my first several attempts, and it took him about 10 minutes. I was actually halfway home at this point to respond. I was so confused and so worried and super mad. I asked him where he was. He said he was at home. I told him our son had just told his grandmother that he was home alone and that his baby sister was watching TV about 15 minutes ago. My husband denied it, and I told him that I was too upset to talk and drive at the moment. When I got home, I checked on the kids right away, and luckily they were both fine. I asked my husband again where he was. He said he was home the entire time and he doesn't know what our son was talking about, but that he must have been confused since he had just gone to the basement to do some laundry. I ran down to the basement and what do you know? It was the same load of laundry that I had thrown in the dryer the night before. He didn't do any laundry while I was gone. I asked my husband why my son would be confused about whether his dad was home or not. Where in our home would he have gone and for how long that our son would think that his dad wasn't home? That doesn't make any sense with a 5-year-old and a 9-month-old. You wouldn't leave them unattended that long, right? Why was he nowhere to be found when my mom asked my son to go check certain areas of the house too? I begged my husband to just admit it and to stop treating me like an idiot and to stop accusing our son of lying. Just tell me the truth because being lied to right to my face is so incredibly maddening. He still insists, though, that he was home, but he can't come up with any believable story as to where he was or what he was doing during that time. The way he answers me when I ask him about this and demand truthful answers is so dismissive. When I tell him, "You left our children alone," he quickly says, "No, I didn't," and then trails off into some other thought. He says that I'm overreacting and letting our son's imagination drive me crazy. I am absolutely convinced that he was gone. We don't have a Ring camera, but at least one of our neighbors does. I'm so upset about this that I'm tempted to ask our neighbor for their Ring footage. I had to go out to my car and scream and cry because I got so upset. Of course, I didn't want my kids to see my reaction, though. I can't even put into words how upset I am about the fact that I know that he must have really left home alone, but have no proof and am being treated like I'm just a paranoid nutcase of a mother/woman by him. OP, maybe I've just been reading too much Reddit and I just kind of jumped to the worst conclusion, but I absolutely think he was gone and I absolutely think he was out meeting his mistress or some type of affair partner, and that's why he doesn't want to tell you. Also, like leaving a 9-month-old alone, even a 5-year-old, is just so incredibly irresponsible and detrimental to their health and well-being. Like they could get into literally anything and like unalive themselves. That is so that is like divorce territory right there. If I did that with my kids, my wife, she wouldn't even talk to me. There wouldn't even be a conversation about it. She wouldn't even ask me where I was. She would just come in and she would probably kill me. Like that would just probably be it. So yeah, OP, this is so far out of bounds from him. I really think you're stepping into divorce territory here. Our next Reddit post comes from Engineering Alert 1501, titled, "Someone was unalived in my school and the school is trying to cover it up and trying to save their reputation." I don't even know if this is the right subreddit for this, but I digress. I'm going to try to do my best to describe the incident. One of the helpers' head was crushed by her school bus twice. The worst part, in my opinion, is that the bus driver literally got his job through the help of the person that he ran over, and all of the children who rode the bus are now traumatized. For some context, a helper is someone who helps in and around the bus. The helper was helping a first grader go up the bus, and this was the first time where she got ran over. For those wondering, yes, the first grader saw it all and told the driver to stop, but then he ran her over twice because he thought that the kid was joking. When the school found this out, the first thing that management did was hide the incident completely. There was a camera around and it captured the incident, and although it ended up on the news, the video was never shown, and the school officials bribed everyone with the video to keep it quiet. The first grader who witnessed the incident is now traumatized. He still keeps shaking even though the incident happened 2 days ago. Literally everyone from my class is still talking about it. OP, I don't think you meant to say that the person or the first grader was still shaking 2 days later maliciously, like, that they shouldn't be shaking. I mean, shaking is very normal, especially 2 days after the incident. I know people in the military that served with me that have PTSD from certain places that they were at that still wake up in night terrors and shake thinking about it like 7 years later. So 2 days for something that a literal child witnessed is completely understandable. And anyway, I can't imagine that the police are not involved, but if they are not, OP, you absolutely should go to the police, and an investigation needs to be started. Someone needs to be held responsible for that person dying. That is incredibly sad, and incredibly sad for all those kids that had to see that. Our next Reddit post comes from Jay Backman, titled, "Abusive ex refused to move out, so I did it for her in the most inconvenient way possible." For context, I had broken up with my ex about a year prior to this event, but she just wouldn't move out. One excuse after another for a solid year, until one day, amidst yet another argument, she finally admitted that her plan was to stay indefinitely and threatened to claim domestic abuse if I did anything about it. That weekend, she decided to go out for one of her weekend vacations with a girlfriend. So I took full advantage of the 48 hours that I had, and I got to work reserving a storage unit and renting a moving truck. I worked around the clock, loading the truck multiple times, only really sleeping a few hours that entire weekend. She had an incredible hoarding problem that I always turned a blind eye to. I had to pick my battles with her, and it had gotten pretty far out of control. Not only did I make dozens of trips to the storage unit itself, but the storage unit was almost too small for everything. It was truly amazing how much crap that she had managed to pack floor to ceiling in multiple rooms, closets, and garage, despite living in the same house together for so long. Out of pure spite, I made sure that the laptop was the very first thing in the storage unit, all the way in the back corner, followed by all of her clothes, so many freaking clothes, then furniture, then all the meaningless hoarded junk. By the time I was done, that storage unit was packed floor to ceiling to the point that I had to really Tetris the last couple of loads in there just to get the door to shut. She was right at the end of a semester of school and not only needed the laptop first thing next week, but she was also planning on leaving for a cross-state road trip to visit family, and everything that she needed was in the very back of the unit. From what I heard, it took her and her friend the better part of a week to find the laptop and to repack the storage unit. She missed some important deadlines at school and delayed her family trip by a whole week, which messed up other plans and wasted a few days of PTO at work to boot. The best part, however, came months later. You see, when she first came back from her little weekend vacation, I had asked her to sign the receipt to receive the key to her storage unit. She immediately refused, threw a fit, and tried to steal my dog. She tried, but failed. Then she tried to break into my house while I was gone, then came back about 6 hours later with 6 cops in her wake. To this day, I still don't know what lie she told them to get that kind of entourage, but after I explained my side of the story, they realized it was just a civil matter and quickly left. The receipt that I asked her to sign was simple enough in that I offered to pay for the storage unit for up to 6 months if she signed it that day. But since she didn't, I removed my card from the account and I put it in her name. The only problem was the card that she put on file with them was a quote authorized user card linked to my account, which I promptly canceled. So she then missed enough payments on the storage unit that they locked her out and she was never able to get the rest of her stuff before they presumably auctioned it all off. So let me get this straight. Not only did she try to stay in your apartment and leech off of you and not want to leave, but then after you kicked her out, thought that it would be a good idea to continue to try to leech off of you and use your money to continue to pay for that storage unit, thinking that you weren't going to cancel that card. OP, I'm so glad that you got out of this relationship. I'm so glad that you did not get married, have kids, and string your life to her because she sounds like an absolute nightmare. However, I will say things do get kind of touchy when you start like taking people's stuff and like throwing them other places and putting them in storage units. You open yourself up to some liability. I personally probably would have just gone to the sheriff and gone to the court and had her legally evicted to, protect myself. But I'm not saying what you did was wrong, but good for you, OP. It worked out in the end. You got your place back. You don't have to deal with her. You didn't go to jail. Life is good. That was Reddit After Hours, bringing you r/TrueOffMyChest. Thank you all so much for listening, and if you like these stories, like and subscribe, and leave a comment down below for any future Reddit subs that you would like us to cover, as we post new Reddit videos almost every single day.